Kerul walked into my office the day he was diagnosed with chronic myeloid leukemia. He was 32 years old. I have known Kerul throughout these 14 years that he's been living with cancer. But today is the first time in front of all of you. I'm going to kind of put some really tough questions at you. Okay, Kerul, you ready? Yeah? Okay. So the first one, it is said, when grief strikes, when life is rudely interrupted, you're faced with a diagnosis of a life threatening illness. There are these 5 stages of grief that you have to go through to get accustomed to this new situation in your life. So, Carol, there is denial, there is anger, then there's the bargaining aspect, and then there is depression, and then finally, acceptance. So, Carol, how did this journey happen for you? How did you come to terms crossing through these different stages?
So I was diagnosed with leukemia in September 2003. So months prior to that, I thought I had a seemingly normal life. I was well set in my business, married, I was a father. I went to a local gym nearby to stay fit until I was contracted with the dengue virus, which is notorious in Mumbai. Um the doctors asked me to get a blood test done, and the tests were abnormal. So they recommended me to go through a bone marrow biopsy. So while I lay at the Bhatia Hospital's ICU, actually recovering from dengue, that's where the news broke that I also had chronic myeloid leukemia. And frankly, I was too badly beaten down by dengue, extremely weak to react. But I think acceptance was the first thing that I went through. Because I'm a realist, I'm not an idealist. So as soon as the doctors and the reports were out there, I knew that, okay, I have cancer. It was not until I went back home that it kind of knocked the daylights out of me. I mean, it really put me in a shock. I remember just shutting out in my room, watching the television, but not looking at anything really, staring at the walls. I stopped listening to people. I spoke very little. I think I was in depression at that time. So maybe depression was the next thing that hit me. Right after that, I started bargaining with myself. I said if I started feeling better, then I would resume gymming or that little bit of running that I did. So that came next. Viji, anger is one thing I think it stayed with me for a very long time. In fact, it's even there like now. Because the revolutionary treatment that was put on, it compromised my immunity. So I had a string of hospitalizations over the 14 years. And each time, I mean, I should just be pissed off, like really angry. Denial bit, I think
I
that
was
bit I
about to
left.
ask you about that. I mean, you're telling us that acceptance came first, and then when bargaining, you're not bargaining with some power above. You bargain with yourself, right? And we'll talk about the anger bit, but denial, yes.
Denial bit, I think I left to my parents. They were in denial for a very long time, particularly my father. Years after my diagnosis, he would still say, oh, nonsense, I think you're fine and nothing's happened to you. So denial my parents went through.
So I guess everybody can empathize with the fact of this anger about how your whole life has been turned around on its head, and now all these years, um, your life has been punctuated, so to say, with periodic episodes of hospitalization, random surgeries, a lot of invasive interventions. That's a big change. What has kept you going in the sense, all the values that you hold dear, your goals in life, you must have had to make a lot of changes.
Sure. So prior to my diagnosis, I had a very simple goal in life, which is my career and business and making money. Simple. As soon as I was diagnosed, my first priority was to survive. I mean, I didn't know, how else to react. So survival kicked in really first. And within that space, the doctors had informed me that if you're fit, you'll be able to fight leukemia better and you'll probably live longer. So fitness took like precedence over everything. I took that literally. Uh, Started again gymming and everything, and I stayed fit as far as possible. Spending time with my family, of course, and friends, that was the next important thing. So I did a lot of that. And obviously, my business came third. So
You had to rework a lot of things in this, your crusade against cancer. So I'm saying crusade and not what we usually say, fight, wage a war against cancer or a battle. Crusade is kind of a long-term commitment, a long-term campaign, directed at restoring all that you had lost. And this is all about loss, the loss of your previous life. And at some point in time, there must have come a very let's just say that turning point when you turn to karate and use that as a big resource in your campaign.
right. So the turning point, ironically, came in 2008, 5 years after I was diagnosed, and it was ironically at a time when I was at my lowest. I had a string of infections in and out of hospital like multiple times, badly beaten down. When I finally got everything cleared and I was home, my mind was at a certain place and my body was lagging far behind. So it was a very confusing time. And I think that was the second time I bargained with myself. And I said that if I bridge this gap, if I start feeling better, this time I will go back into training karate, something that I actually really liked doing when I was a kid, when I was in college. So eventually, when I did feel better, I started training karate. The initial few months were very rough, but I went through the cycle of improvement. I felt physically better. My mental strength improved. I started sleeping better. See, every cancer patient basically goes through crap. He has some sort of toxicity built up in his head over time. And how karate helped me was it was an out. When I trained, I came back home cleared. My mind was absolutely fresh to take on the next day. And basically, I just felt good. So I stuck with the training. It was rough, it was challenging. And as months went by, in 2010, I cleared my black belt, which was my dream when I was in college. I couldn't do it. In 2012, I went on to clear my second degree black belt. And in 2015, my third degree black belt.
I have known for a fact that your karate and the karate group, the people you practice with, you work with, I've seen you perform, seen the little kids who look up to you. So that's formed a part of your support system. I work with more than 18,000 patients who are living with cancer, coming from all walks of life. And I know that each one of them struggles to find that perfect support system. And they learn that to find that support system, they have to work hard towards it. Kerul, I know you have that with you. You want to talk to us about, the relationships that have evolved and how you have had to come to terms with so many things so that you could have this system with you in your journey ahead.
Yeah, I have a pretty strong support system. My parents, my family, my wife Charita, and my son Pratish, they've been by my side right throughout this journey, and my brothers as well. Importantly, friends are equally important, especially my boarding school friends. I mean, when we go and hang out, it's a laugh riot. And trust me, take it from me, it's not a cliche when they say laughter is the best medicine. It can really have a big effect to take on the next day and the day after that.
And you can take it from me, he believes in it. He laughs at my worst jokes ever. But Kerul, I also want to ask you, you spoke about your son being part of the system. Kerul, your son was a baby when you were diagnosed. So where and how and when did this happen that your son is now such an inherent part of your support system?
Yeah, my son was 18 months old when I was diagnosed. So initially, the first few years, it was pretty simple because my son was too young to understand anything. So me and my wife spoke freely at home about cancer and treatment and things like that. But as he grew older, he started understanding things, and so we were a lot conscious about what to say in front of him. And we knew it had it was having an effect on him because at one time he had drawn a picture of me laying in hospital on a hospital bed. There was another time when he came back from school and I learned that the teacher asked him, "What does it Papa do?" And he went, "Nothing. He's at home, chilling." So I knew it had had an effect, and me and my wife spoke, and we decided that at some point we have to let him know, lest he heard it from some other source and it affected him adversely. So on a holiday, when he was little over 10 years old, I spoke to him and I laid it out in as clear terms that, Pratish Beta, the reason for all this doctor visits, medicines, hospitalizations is because I have blood cancer. And there was a pause, and so I asked him, "Do you know what blood cancer is?" So he goes, "Papa, Yuvraj Singh has cancer and he plays cricket, and you have cancer and you train karate, so I think everything's fine." And he nodded in a way that he knew because he's an avid cricketer. He's the captain of St. Mary's team and he reads a lot about cricket. So he knew what it was all about. So it was a big.
Over these years, I've seen how your family, your mom and dad, your brothers, your wife, they've all been so much of a support to you.
Viji, family has its place, but you've been an important part of my life. Everyone lovingly calls you Amma, and you've had a good effect on me. You've been the sounding board, and it helps me clear my mind and gives me the strength and courage to go on when I talk to you.
I know Kerul has often said this to me that, Amma, you work with 18,000 patients, but for me, there's just you. This is one person I come to. I have nothing in my cue card which tells me what I should say just now, but I know that you have found it easy to come and lay your burden down. This burden of cancer that you're carrying and the finality of death that comes with it, mortality. Kerul, that's final. There's no getting away from it. But this familiarity with it, getting used to it, does it make a difference?
Yeah, I suppose you do get familiar with mortality. I mean, what is mortality? It's end of life. I mean, today I'm not dying of cancer. I'm living with it. So it's no one really knows how they're going to die, right? I mean, including me. But the probability for me of dying is because of cancer or cancer related complications is high. So that's the burden I carry and I have to live each day with it and try and maximize life.
You have often said that, the average age of survival in India, the average age of life of an Indian.
True. Yeah, it's about 70 years is the average life of an Indian man. And at 46, I feel like time is running out. So I maximize life. I live life each day, to the fullest.
When you say time is running out, with cancer, cancer's given you time, I would say. It's like, main causes of dying, a plane crash or some natural calamity or a road traffic accident or a heart attack. But here, you have time. You've had time to make your bucket list. Tell us about your bucket list. I know you have one.
Yeah, it's actually work in progress. The first thing I put down on my bucket list was to watch my son blow out 21 candles. uh, the others are, I mean, pretty, like my wife loves to travel, so I want to see as many countries as possible. Like to visit my alma mater in US, University of Hartford and Drexel, not being able to do that. The sense of giving back is there. So now at 46, I want to now start training kids and I want to pick one kid and make a champion out of him in karate. So that's on my bucket list.
How do you want to be remembered as?
Viji, I think I'll be remembered by my friends and family as this crazy guy who took up karate and went all the way after cancer. And this guy who kept things simple in life, kept his cool, and just went about things and put a smile on people's face.
That you do, always. I have put down something which I have to read out for you, especially it's from my favorite, you don't call him a poet, I don't know, Rumi, Jalaluddin Maulana Rumi. I want to read this out for everybody, and this is specially dedicated to Kerul. This place is a dream. Only a sleeper considers it real. And then death. Death comes like dawn. And you wake up laughing at what you thought was your grief. That's for you, Kerul. Okay? Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.